Welcome back. When Lola left our home with our children many years ago, I had every emotional reason to chase her, to get obsessed and just chase her, beg her, But the reality, I had been doing that for before even that happened, and it didn't work. And suddenly, that event gave me the realization. In fact, one of our clients felt that same panic when separation became their reality in their marriage. And he believed that unless he first progress immediately, um, assert the rules, in that kind of situation, I'm not sure. The human brain is a very funny thing. But anyway, he believed that if he had enforced that progress and divorce would become inevitable, right? So, I mean, if he had not forced the progress, rather, right, that divorce will suddenly become inevitable. So he felt the need to assert, just hold his feet down and just say, no, you have to stop, all that kind of stuff, right? But here's the assumption that can destroy your best opportunity, your best chances. Chasing, begging, obsession, all those kind of things does not always communicate love. I will give you a little bit of room that maybe sometimes depends on the circumstances, but when somebody's already operating under that level of pressure, it's not going to work. Now, sometimes it communicates that your fear matters more than the other person's request for distance, right? I need space. I need to find myself, those kind of conversations, right? So today, I'm going to show you how to respect space, right? Today, we're going to talk about I need space, that request, a crazy ass request, because that's the last thing you want to hear from a partner that you already feel like this is about to enter a hole, right? So I'm going to show you how to respect space without surrendering your marriage or abandoning your personal power, because I know that's also part of the fear sometimes. So I'm going to show you what I call the panic chase cycle. Okay, the panic chase cycle. We're going to run through that real quick. Give me just 5 minutes to show you this. This will fix your marriage. Okay, if you understand this will save you from a lot of headache. My name is Ola, coming to you live from my Empire Pro Studios. So, the panic chase cycle. All right, we're going to run through this today. This is going to save your marriage if you understand this. This crazy doom cycle. I think then suddenly you can. Now, what triggers this? What triggers this is distance. You feel a sense of distance between you and your partner, right? All right. And usually what this leads to is, I'm going to explain them, but let me just run through them real quick, right? Distance leads to panic, right? And that leads to chasing. Okay. This leads to chasing. I gotta fix that spelling. And that leads to, let's see. Let's put this right here. We need some space. Chasing leads to pressure. What the other person feels is it contradicts your intention, right? So this leads to pressure, right? Now you call it love, right? But what they feel is pressure, right? And that leads to even more withdrawal. You would think you would feel like, okay, you should fight for your marriage, so they should come closer to you and just realize once and for all that this is a terrible idea, that they need to come with you to therapy and fix this marriage once and for all. Yeah, right. You have no idea how the human brain operates. This is what's going to happen. More withdrawal. They're going to withdraw because why? I'm going to explain why for you. It's just what it is, but I'll tell you why. I'm not going to tell you just it is what it is, right? It's not going to be that simple, right? And because that withdrawal is going to become some crazy form of proof. Proof. Let me put this here for you, right? Proof. Proof that what? I'm going to explain that again in a second. Just give me 1 second. All right. Proof. Right? Proof of what? I'm going to explain that. But just know that this is going to continue the cycle. It's going to beef off even more distance. Doom, 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 gloom. This is what gets people into divorce, guys. Right? All of this triggered by distance. You didn't know what to do. You felt distance. You didn't know what to do with yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. We're going to talk about I need space. A request in your marriage. What do you do with that? Most people create more destruction, more distance, and basically it leads to divorce, right? Because they don't know what to do when they find themselves in this space. Look, what I'm teaching you right now is a universal roadmap, but every marriage has its own unique. That's when I say unique, I mean has its own unique. I didn't finish the sentence. Has its own unique roadmaps, has its own unique curveballs, landmine, surprises, and all that kind of stuff. Right? Every marriage is different, and if your marriage is in an active crisis state right now, and you cannot afford to wait for this live streams piece by piece, we're going to figure some things out today. Just go to getmymarriageback.com/discovery right now and book a one-on-one discovery session with me so we can map out your exact strategy to navigate out of this funk. We do it privately, 60 minutes, okay? All right, now let's get down to business. All right, I need space. Right? Your partner has asked you for space. What do you do with that? What do you do with all of this? It's a lot going on here, right? So you find yourself in a place of distance. The other person, they become less available, right? You can feel it. You know something is off. In fact, you would like to pretend it's a surprise, but not really. You think you're a very intelligent person, so you know that there's been a slow but sure drift happening over a period of time, for the past several years, maybe several months, maybe a few weeks. But you felt some kind of disconnect before they finally ask for space, right? They withdraw emotionally, or even bring up the idea of separation or divorce. Maybe. Yeah, I'm sorry if you're going through that, because that has to be tough. It has to be tough. Well, it's tough. It's difficult. It's a difficult thing to navigate. So be easy on yourself, because it's not your fault. So even if you find yourself in a place where you're already operating from a place of panic now, it's not just you. This is what generally happens to a typical human being. Unless you're a psychopath, if you're a normal human being, you are going to feel panic. Okay, you're going to interpret the distance as an emergency. It's going to feel like heaven is going to fall out of the skies. It's not going to happen. Or the world will end today because somebody asked you for space. I promise you, that's not what's about to happen. Right? But it's natural that you feel even worse than that, right? And what you normally do, you want to reverse that immediately. You want to change that reality immediately. So you're going to spiral into anything that will help you, that your sense might tell you that you need to change that immediately. It's just normal human behavior. But that normal human behavior is going to make things get worse. Because it's going to do what? It's going to start making you chase. All right? Chase. What do you mean chase? Like fighting for my marriage? Yeah. There's nothing wrong with fighting for your marriage, but you must know how to fight. It's like there's nothing wrong with getting in a boxing ring with Mike Tyson. You better know what you're doing, right? Just because you're fighting doesn't mean you're going to win, right? Exactly. Well, in this particular types of scenario, we usually, why do I keep doing this? I'm moving my head away from the screen. There you go. in this type of scenario, when it comes to marriage, people just assume that common sense should be enough. Unfortunately, common sense is not enough when you're fighting, especially when it involves another person. I know I'm going. We probably should reject that analogy immediately. But you're getting in the boxing ring with Mike Tyson. Your wife, your husband is not Mike Tyson. What I'm saying is that the forces of evil against your marriage is Mike Tyson, and you better know what you're doing, because if you don't know what you're doing, you're gonna get chewed up and spit it out in pieces, just like a lot of those divorces between good people in the divorce courts around the world. And we don't want that, right? So we have to know what we're doing. We can't just follow our feelings. The panic feeling is valid, but let's not pretend it's intentional. It's not intentional. If it's not intentional, it cannot drive skills, right? So you can't use skills. And asking you for skills in this kind of space is kind of crazy. It's unrealistic. I get that too. But gracefully, fortunately, you found yourself in this video, right? So we're not just going to move mad just because it feels like we should move mad, right? So you start chasing. What do you mean? Fighting. Yeah, fighting unskillfully, okay? Why? Because you're operating from a place of fear. So you can look at this panic right here. You can also put that right next to fear, right? We can put fear right next to it. You're panicking, you naturally so, right? Maybe even rightfully so. I don't know about right, but you know what I mean, right? So you start chasing. What does that mean? You're fighting with no skills. You're just doing like this. You're doing like this, right? Right? So, and then before you know it, you have no idea how a very bad punch landed on this bone right here, and now it's broken, right? Because you've been fighting recklessly, right? This is what typically happens when people find themselves in this space. You understand? This is what typically happens in this kind of space, guys. So now you're chasing, you're fighting. So the other person now feels the need. And I believe it or not, they start feeling the need to regulate your fear. They're scared. You manage to transfer a little bit, some of that anxiety over to them, right? So, but they see the fear in your eyes and start to manage it. So they start to push it along. They don't necessarily leave immediately. I'm giving you just a particular scenario, right? They don't leave immediately, so they're lingering. Maybe they're somewhat leading you on. You feel like it's a little bit better, right? So what do, right? Repeated calls, because they really don't do anything with that, right? Even before we get to the other side where they're managing your fear, let's slow down. The chasing, right? You have the repeated calls, you have long text messages while they're at work at 11 a.m. You send these long text messages of you being defensive, justifying, apologizing, all at the same time, interrogations all at the same time. You know that long ass text that you send to your partner while they're at work because you guys are going through marriage crisis, because you guys could not agree on how to take care of the child or the children, right? Because you guys have different, and then you're saying you're being an irresponsible person, but at the same time you're apologizing, you're begging them to stay. You have all this back and forth. Maybe you've been having it for a few years, right? Right, but now you're in a space, they're asking for space, so you're not asking for reassurance. Yeah, all of this are valid, justifiable, right? Justifiable. But then you're always talking about the relationship, the marriage. You're always talking about the relationship, the marriage. And you might call that communication. What's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with a little communication, right? But wait, what is that feeling like on the other end? Why are they now asking for space? I'll tell you why. Because of this guy right here. This is the culprit. Right here, this guy is the culprit. This is the enemy right now. Yeah, this guy. Pressure. That's what they're feeling. Your intentions are good. You want to fight for your marriage, right? So it could be, can we join hands together? Can we fast for 3 days together over our marriage? And that's a good thing, right? Pray. Like, what's wrong with that, right? But unfortunately, they're feeling another type of PR pressure. right? What does that mean? Again, they start feeling this need to manage your own fear. How sustainable is that? If your partner have to start regulating your fear, because they can smell it already, they know where the heart lies already. It's outside of the marriage, and it's not necessarily real. It's just how they feel at this point in time in your marriage, right? It's just how they feel, but they don't know that. You don't know that. They might be fighting for themselves slash marriage, but they for where they are right now, they need to run. They're trying to run away from you. I know that's how you feel, but really, they're trying to run away from the marriage. What they're feeling with regards to this marriage is not proper. Maybe they've been participating in bad behavior. Maybe there's an affair. Maybe the affair is with a person. Maybe it's with a thing. Maybe it's an idea. Maybe the grass seems greener on the other side. What's the other side? It doesn't have to be with another person. It could be, right? But the other side is on the outside of the marriage, right? They're feeling pressurized to stay in this marriage. They feel like it's not their decision to stay in this marriage. Maybe to have started the marriage in the first place, but now they feel like it wasn't their choice. Or it's not their choice to stay, rather. It was their choice to come in. That's the best case scenario. The worst case scenario is that they absolutely regret ever meeting you in this life, right? The best case scenario is, yeah, I love you, but I'm not in love with you. I fell out of love. We grew apart. Irreconcilable differences. That's the best case scenario for most people, right? So what do? They have to make a decision, right? They have to make a decision they were never prepared for. And they're not yet there. So they say, I need space to find myself. You ever heard that before? I need space to figure out if this is really what I want to do. Right? Yeah. It's a lot of pressure. They're just thinking it. They haven't said it yet. Right? They haven't said it yet. But you can feel it, because remember what triggered this whole cycle is distance. Right? They're not available. They say way too long in the car when they get home at 6:30 p.m. and they're on the phone. You can hear a little glimpse of the speaker, the loudspeaker, and they're talking, they're laughing, right, in the car. And then once they're coming into the house, it's stone cold. Like you can just tell they didn't want to be in the house. Yeah, that's real, right? So withdrawal. What do we mean by withdrawal? Right? One of the same kind, but a little bit different from distance. Like we're talking about further withdrawal away from you, right? Why? Because they're looking to escape the pressure, right? They're looking to reduce contact. It's not always intentional, maybe semi-intentional, maybe subconsciously, right? Because again, when you feel pressure, the pressure you're feeling is not physical, it's emotional for the most part, right? So naturally reduce contact. You try to give them a peck on the chin, and they kind of like remove their hair, like they don't touch me. They don't say it out, but they might as well just say it, right? They're reducing contact. They're becoming colder, right? That's the withdrawal, right? They're avoiding conversations, intimate conversations. They don't want to talk about the relationship anymore. They're still there. You're hoping that they're still there. Hopefully they're still there, right? But they don't, like, they're tired of talking about the relationship and the marriage. They don't mind talking about the children, the bills, like real life stuff, right? And then you might even conclude like, hey, why? Like, it's just duty, right? Maybe that's what you've been doing for years. Before it hits you in the face, they're asking for space. How did we get here is what we're talking about, okay? It's because this kind of cycle, it grows and grows and grows. You neglect it. You're dismissive about it. All of that, right? Complacency. Or worse, oblivious. Like you didn't even know this was going on, because marriage was supposed to be duty. And people, like, what's love got to do with it, right? I heard that the other day. I was like, okay, if that's what you think. It's easy to say that when you're trying to justify the BS, but okay. But the withdrawal basically is to reinforce what they already feel. Maybe they already told you. They're reinforcing that they need space. But you're chasing, you're begging, you're apologizing, you're justifying, you're defensive at the same time. So you keep pushing them even further away. Right? Now, the pressure, the chasing, the all of this kind of stuff, right? The obsession basically is a proof. Let's talk about the proof. A proof of what? A proof of what, guys? A proof of what? You want to guess? Right? It's a proof on both sides, as a matter of fact. It's a proof that the decision they're making is the right decision, because again, you're pushing them further away, maybe unintentionally, maybe you're just trying to fight for your marriage, right? But it's a proof that they've made the right decision. But the withdrawal that you're feeling is also a proof to you that maybe the marriage is being lost. So what do? You intensify the unskillful fight. It gets worse, right? You'd make more of the same actions because the withdrawal feels like a bigger form of distance, right? And you're fighting to, you're chasing them. They're running away from you. It gets worse and worse. So now you circle around back to distance, which is, again, it's a renewed fear-driven behavior, right? It creates additional distance. You're restarting that cycle all over again, but this cycle is no longer the same size. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, right? So the final withdrawal to confirm the viewer's original fear, you're basically proving that they were right all along, because your behavior is not sexy to anyone. If this was you and you end up on the receiving end of it, right, where somebody is just trying to pressurize you into making a decision to stay together forever, you would feel the same way, because you want to be the one making that decision. You don't want to be pressurized or manipulated into such a very important decision, like staying with the person for the rest of your life. You would want to be the one in charge of such decision, right? But because you're reading distance as a proof of imminent divorce, hence the fear, the panic, right? It gets worse. The panic returns even stronger. Yeah, everything intensifies, right? And then the cycle becomes even more difficult for you to break. So the problem is not that you care too much. No, it's not that. I understand that maybe you care and you want to fight for your marriage. I get it. The problem is that fear has taken control of how you care, or how your care is being expressed. And that's a problem, right? Chasing is motivated by panic, and it continues to make things worse, because it doesn't necessarily wait for reciprocity. It doesn't measure, it doesn't track, it doesn't see if it's working. It's motivated by itself. It feeds on its own self, right? Now, there's a way you can fight for your marriage. We're going to talk about that. There's a way that you can fight for your marriage in a healthy way, in a way not just calling it healthy for healthy sakes. We're actually going to track it, so we make sure that it's working and see that there's progress. And this is what separates the winners from the losers. Okay, when I say that respectfully, but the reality in life is that life has its way of creating winners and losers. Most people are going to be losers, not in life in general, but in specific things. Some people are just good at what they do, and some people are not. And the losers will find a way to justify losing by saying some people are just lucky, right? We're all lucky, so stop it. Okay, all of us are lucky. All of us has a healthy dose of luck to operate with when we're discussing this kind of stuff. Okay, so you have I was discussing this with someone. We have chase, right? And then we have pursuit, right? Hold on one second. We have pursuit, and they almost smell like the same thing, but they're not the same thing. If you go in the dictionary, they might be synonymous, right? In real life, when it comes to people's experiences, they are a little bit different. Well, they are a lot more different, particularly with respect to how people experience them. All right. One is motivated by fear, the other one is motivated by interest. but also reciprocity, right? At some point, this one is going to be seeking for to make sure the interest is valid. This one does not care. It feeds on itself. It feeds on negative fear, right? So, and that's the difference between all the stuff I want to be sharing with you. Hold tight, okay? This is very important stuff, okay? Your distance, the distance you're experiencing, right, must end, right? That's chasing. It must end, right? But leadership is a little bit different, and we're going to talk about that in a second. After all, this is a partnership. Especially if you have children, it's actually a partnership for the rest of your life. So let's put that aside for a second, because a lot of people think partnership will fix it all. Well, if it will fix it all, it should just fix itself. Just like chasing will fix itself, will continue to create this crazy cycle. But the next step here, it's a little bit different. I just discussed what most people do, which is why they lose. They end up in divorce. Your story doesn't have to be that same way. Okay, the part I just showed you is simply that. Anyway, let me leave that alone. I want to get into the prestige reconciliation cycle. I'm going to show you that in a second. What I'm teaching you is a universal roadmap. Every marriage has its own unique hidden landmines. Okay, everybody have their own unique story and curveballs, all of that. Life presents itself in the ways, and it's continuing to evolve. So what used to work maybe 10 years ago is now different. But the beauty about that is that we can actually learn how why it's different, right? We can learn why, how it became different, and we can also apply that in our methods, in our strategies, right? Either to build or to fix, which is what we do here, right? So it's very important that you understand that I'm giving you a universal roadmap. So if you want me to look directly at your specific situation, your specific relationship blocks, piece by piece, you're realizing for the first time now that it's not about the space. It's not about the space, guys. The space is the symptom. Why did we get into this space of space in the first place? Why somebody is requesting for space in a marriage that they committed to for a lifetime? Why? How? Okay, it's not just you, it's a pattern. We're seeing it everywhere, right? This divorce is happening every day. Go to the divorce court in your jurisdiction, right? All those people are good people. Not all, but majority are just good people trying to live life, right? The issue isn't which pattern, right? It's which pattern fits your own unique story, right? And that's what we help you figure out in the discovery session. So you can book a discovery session. Just go to getmymarriageback.com/discovery, and you can take that step, and then we'll take you from there. All right, now let's talk about. I want to show you. So again, we're talking about the chase, the difference between chase and pursuit, right? So I want to show you what I call the prestige reconciliation cycle. You see, at the end of the day, whatever you do, right? You want it to get its own life. You want it to have its own life, and because this idea that you're just going to be a good person and that should be good enough is unrealistic, right? If it's good enough for having life, that's it. Okay, in terms of relationship with other human beings, you're going to need a little bit more than just being a good person. That should be your baseline regardless, but you need a little bit more than just being a good person. You need to have skills, all right? And skills, they tend to disappear when you're in a panic mode. Excuse me, just trying to draw. Oh wait, I could have just done. What am I doing? Oh my god. All right, let's just put this right here. Okay, now interestingly, the cycle is triggered by the same element. What am I mean? Distance, right? So every relationship get into a place where there might be distance, right? So you have distance, right? Every relationship will find itself in this position at some point. Why? Because everyone that says I do, they don't know what they're doing. That's the reality. Okay, they're in love, yes, they're in love, That's a great place to start from. Attraction, good old attraction. You're attracted to that person. You're attracted to the idea of doing life with them for whatever reason. Some people say it's finances. Some people say, well, it's only because they had a good body. They look good. You know, body like what? Like steez, right? The people claim that only certain type of people. No, all of us. We have our own facades. Is that the word? We have our own fantasies about what will make us fall in love. We fell in love with the fantasy. All of us. We did that. All of us. Okay. Some people are lucky to get to a place where they're intentional, right? Where they've landed themselves on this kind of video at some point in their marriage, 2 years in, 3 years, 4 years in, whatever. After they find themselves in what I call the poto, in the mud. They find that marriage in the mud because being in love is just as good as just as long as it's going to last. Eventually, you actually have to learn how to love, as opposed to being in love. In love is mistakenly or accidentally fall in love with a person. But if you're going to be an adult in real life, right, at some point you have to take the bulls by the horn. You have to be intentional, right? You have to actually learn how to love skillfully, right? As opposed to it just happened to you accidentally. So interestingly, this got triggered by distance as well, right? So, but now, when you feel distance, what do you go to, right? When you're being intentional, we go to grounding, guys. We go to grounding. I'm going to explain it, but let me go through this real quick. We go to grounding. From grounding, we go to discernment. I'm going to add a little bit of spice here today. Discernment. I'm going to explain that for you in a second. From discernment, you now have what we call restraint. Oh, restraint. Why? Restraint for what reason? Well, remember, the marriage is not in the mud. Every marriage will find itself here. Okay, maybe in 50 years time that will change because people start to actually educate themselves. They go through some kind of school, minimum 6 months, maybe 1 year before they actually get into that marriage. Not 2 weeks pre-marital counseling. Pre-marital counseling, what do you learn in that? You don't even know what you're learning. You have no idea what you're getting into. Anyway, so now from discernment, you now have the opportunity. You now have enough in you for restraint. I'm going to explain why you need that. Okay, and then from restraint, we have something very important. You're going to need this at some point if you want your marriage to be sustainable, and you're going to need it not just at the individual level, but even as a couple. But more importantly, as an individual, you're going to need purpose. Purpose. All right? I can't tell you how many marriages enroll in our program. And when I say, what's the purpose? And they're looking at me, and the ones that's lucky enough to say something will say procreation and companionship. Like, really? That's it? That's why you're together? It's no wonder it's breaking apart, you know? Anyway, purpose. Anything you do in life that you want it to be sustainable needs purpose. Okay? So from a place of purpose, that's where you can build value from. Now you can build value. I'm not talking about moral values, actual value, a real reason why somebody will want to stay with you for a lifetime. Something that kind of feeds on itself, something that produces what? It continues to produce attraction, even better attraction than just better attraction than just looks. You know, you have that looks thing or sapiosexual. They speak intelligently. That's what attracted you in the beginning. Well, that's good. That's cute. But in real life, you're gonna need a little bit more than that, right? So attraction. But this time around is attraction that feeds on itself, that continues to make itself even better. Okay, but as you can see, before we got to this phase, it's a process. It's a process. You can't snap your finger. You can't do this from a place of fear. You have to actually know what you're doing, right? And unfortunately, sometimes you have to see life for what it is first, right? Now, attraction is going to create more grounding, not distance, right? But even if you find yourself in distance because of the because of the experience, because of evidence, you know what to do with distance next time around. Because again, life happens. All right. So I'm actually going to connect attraction to, yes, potentially sometimes life still happens, right? For whatever reasons, even beyond you, sometimes people they express distance. They need a little bit of space. They don't say that they need space. That's weird. If you've gone through this process, usually not, but maybe they're showing emotional distance because they're going through something personally. But when you know what you're doing, right, it's a little bit different. We're going to create a green cycle from attraction. You know what to do with that situation, right? We're gonna this help you get back to ground. You know exactly what to do. Okay, you can connect to any side of this cycle when you're knowing what you're doing. So even if you find yourself in a place of distance, again, they're showing that they need some space or something like that. They usually, you won't be at a place where somebody is saying I need space again. Okay, it has to be something terribly went wrong before you can find yourself there. Because think about it, you've been building this massive foundation. It's just they're not going to find that in the streets anywhere. There's nothing like this in the streets. Everybody else is operating from a place of panic. When they see distance, they panic, they start chasing, they start pressure and more withdrawal, and then confirm everything and then start that cycle all over again until they go apart. But with the prestige reconciliation cycle, is something that feed on itself to actually make better foundation over a period of time. People say, well, if you start the marriage on the right foundation, you're right, but it's not possible because you don't know what you're starting. You're just in love in the beginning. What do you mean? Like, that's an absolute. Exactly. Everyone that starts a marriage, they don't know what they're doing. So there's nothing special about your situation. You just need to now be an adult and say, okay, how do we now build a foundation? Right? Unless there are other motives, or else there are other reasons beyond the typical. And that's why I said everybody's story is still different. I can acknowledge that. But this idea that some people found the right person and the other person found the wrong person, it's a cop out from responsibility, if you know what I mean. So let's go through this cycle. Let's really break it down. So again, we have distance, right? The same triggering event, of course. Emotional withdrawal, requested space, somebody's requesting for separation. You're uncertain about the future of the marriage. They want divorce. Whatever reason, it shocked your bone. You still have fear, you still have panic, but you're not going to act on them, right? You're going to find grounding, like anybody who understand how safety works, right? You're looking for safety and certainty. What do? You find grounding. You find a place to put your hands. It's like earthquake, right? But you find a place where you can actually ground yourself first before you react, because the more you react without grounding, it gets worse. So for you, I don't know what your faith is. Maybe you return to God. Maybe you go back into prayer, a place of solitude. You take some time off, right? You find a way to find emotional stability first. All right. What does that mean? You find your way to things you can control first, because you cannot control another human being. You have to give them the best thing to do at that point. If they ever ask for that, is to say, I understand. Let me know if you change your mind. Now, to say that, you see how easy that is? It's easier said than it's one of the most difficult things you will say in your life if you find yourself in this position. But since it's the most difficult thing to do, what do you think the other person feels? A little mix of he doesn't care, right? With interesting, curiosity. Okay, now you're getting closer to attraction. They wonder what you're up to because they're not used to you reacting that way. They're used to you absolute chaos. When you feel rejected, they're used to that guy. Okay, you think it's the first time this is happening? No, you've pushed them to a place where they're asking for space. I'm not saying it's your fault, but they've been thinking about this for a while. That's the point, right? So you've managed to get them to a place where they actually say it out. So they brace themselves that it's going to be chaotic. But now you're saying something like, all right, I understand. Plus, it's not really normal human behavior. Why am I saying this? I'm contradicting myself. You have to know what you're doing to respond in that manner to something so devastating. It is a devastating event for your partner, your wife, to come to you and say, I need space. So I can understand why most people go the other route, right? Which is panic, right? So what I'm showing you right now, let me show you something really cool, right? What I'm saying is that you have this right here, distance, right? Emotional withdrawal, whatever. So that's, you're understanding that this is not about space, it's about this distance, right? Okay, so you have this, and you have two paths to take. You have two paths you can take. It's completely up to you, somewhat, because the other one requires you finding yourself in this video, right? Or some kind of this information, right? You have two paths you can take, right? You have, on this path, you have panic, which is what most people, the path that most people take, right? And then you have, on this path, you have grounding. Now, this path right here, it feels a bit too quiet for human nature. Okay? This one is weakness. I'm going to put here, weak. Right? This one takes, you can call it strength. You actually have to have the capacity to do this. Not only capacity, you need support systems most times to do this. Obviously, education, this platform is a good support system. It goes a long way, right? Because now you can't unlearn this, right? But most people, that easy route, that weak easy route, okay, let me put that here again, easy, right? This is effortless, easy, effortless. You don't have to apply any effort in going this route, right? Whereas this one is hard as shit. I'm gonna say hard AF. Okay, it's extremely hard. Easier said than done, right? So, and of course, this requires work. Anything that requires work is a good thing, right? Can we all agree on that? Anything that requires work, it's a good thing, right? Because it will last. I wanted to put this here, right? There you go. There you go. Those are the paths that you have available to you. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. Anyway, so you have discernment, okay? You are open, because they're gonna start attempting. If somebody's asking for space, you're gonna start attempting. You're open to the idea of separating responsibilities, right? You determine what the moment truly, what is it, right? You're able to chill. That's the discernment, and you're not making hasty decisions, right? You understand there might be making moves, certain types of moves, right? That's effectively looking like you're going more in that direction of divorce, right? Going more. And then of course you're being tested for doing this, again, this active test going on, right? To see if you will react, go back in that panic direction. There's a path to the panic direction from any one of these elements that you're looking at on the screen. It's crazy. In fact, I could make this messier. This, because it truly can be messy. There's a route to panic from every single one of this. Like, you could literally lose your shit at any point in time. But it gets more difficult to go back to panic the more you go through this route. It's hard work, but it's work that will pay off long term for you. Okay, I found it difficult to trace a path from value to panic, because once you start seeing evidence, experience, and seeing value, it's just that much difficult to go back to that space, because you're leaving it. You're passing the test as you're going through, because there's always going to be tests. Every move, temporarily, every move they make is going to continue to confirm that space is real. But I'm telling you right now, there have been people that have been divorced for a couple of years, they come back together because there's nothing in the streets. But it's not magical that they come back together. Somebody did some kind of work, right? Because all you have to do is look like everybody else on the streets, and then they will continue to think that there's better in the streets. When I say in the streets, I'm talking about out there. All right. Gracious greatness, I'm live. How are you, my friend? I hope you're doing well. Good to see you, boss. All right, so it's, I don't know what to tell you. But anyway, let's talk about restraint. You stop pleading. You stop begging, right? It's going to feel like you should. People will tell you, why don't you beg? Advisors, a ton of advisors that will tell you, why don't you just beg? You start over explaining everything that happened in the last 12 years till now. You have to explain everything. Is that sustainable? It's not. In the midst of that, you're also interrogating. Maybe you feel like they've been cheating, there's an affair, and all this defensiveness. You're forcing this relationship conversations. You're basically you restrain yourself from all those type of activities. That's where restraint comes in, right? And then purpose, okay? Purpose is the pain. You're able to transform the pain into productive energy, okay? Because of purpose, you're strengthening your health, you're strengthening your work, your career, your goal, your mission in life, right? Parenting, other aspects where you still have opportunity to showcase your new self, right? Your faith, emotional discipline, because they're still there. Especially if there are children involved, but it's still things that they still need to be around you, even if it's just for the purpose of separating responsibilities or how your life is attached. Those are all opportunities for you to showcase yourself or to operate from a place of panic. So the enemy can use that, or you can take control of it. It's now up to you. All right. So value, what do we mean by value? Consistent self-leadership. Increase in confidence. Confidence is always sexy. Always. Okay, I will keep saying that. Stability, you're stable, not just stable financially, but you show like you're a stable human being. That takes a lot of effort, but it's doable, right? You become useful, because if you can't be useful, maybe you're useless, or you can start yielding in the direction of you're being abused, right? Emotional abuse, is that real? Yes, it can be real, but again, when it's emotional level, you can start changing your interpretations to the events of life, because you always have the opportunity to remove yourself anyway. Removing yourself will also showcase that you have self-respect, value, dignity, okay? And remember, when I say value, at the end of the day, it's still perceived, it's still perception at the end of the day. Okay, but it needs to start from your own eyes, how you perceive yourself, and then obviously attraction, and then and just knowing that you can always go back to grounding to feed more. Whatever grounding is for you, you can go back there as a source all the time, as opposed to going back to panic, because panic will help you anytime you're ready for it. That's the crazy thing about panic, guys. That's the crazy thing about panic. Okay, so let me make sure. Oh my god. Okay, all right, so anyway, we've been discussing I need space as a request. Your wife, your husband is asking for space and you don't know what to do with yourself. I completely understand the panic that naturally comes. It's weak, it's easy, it's the easy route to take, right? Understanding the cycle is different from applying it when you're triggered. Okay, not only are you triggered, you're probably feeling lonely, you're receiving mixed signals, all kind of crazy advices from friends, families, loved ones, internet. Your situation may involve children, shared finances, an affair. You see how I make my face when that happens, because that's crazy, it's terrible. I'm sorry that you have to go through that, right? Legal separation, limited contact, which is still opportunities in there. Maybe you're still living together in the same household, right? If you go to getmymarriageback.com/discovery, you're able to book a private session. Okay, you're able to book a private discovery session. very important. We can help you translate these principles into practical decisions. Okay, because you're going to be thrown into. It's going to be difficult. It's like I'm trying to look for the right analogy without, because some of majority of the analogies I will reject immediately. It's difficult. It's that much difficult is my point. Okay, but you have practical decisions, you have accountability, and you have a strategy suited to the realities of your own marriage. Okay, and but again, you're not alone. How do I know? Because it starts from here, and most situations end up in divorce. But I said most, because most people are losers. That's why I said that. Okay. But the winners they exist. That's why we have a award that keeps going around and around, right? But we're talking about top 3, top 5%, but it starts from just awareness, which hopefully you have some today, right now, right? When someone asks you for space, don't confuse urgency with effectiveness. That's what a lot of people do. Like, it is urgent. Everything is ending. The whole world is about to end. You don't say that out loud, but that's what you feel inside. And I get it. I understand that. Most people feel the same thing. Okay? Your responsibility is not to control their next decision. Don't try it. It's not going to work, right? It's only going to create pressure, right? Your responsibility is to govern your own emotions. In fact, that's a whole lot of the work. Okay? 60 to 80% of the work is going to be about managing your own emotions, your own conduct, your priorities, your availability. Now, that one is extra secret, right? That would depend very strongly on your particular situation, but it's a major one, right? Yes, prayer covers what you cannot control. That's still true, right? But prayer without work, how's that? Patience prevents fear from dictating your next move. You're going to need patience, not for the other person, for yourself. You deserve it. No, you don't have to act right now, right? You can just take a deep breath for the next 30 seconds before you act. That's all you need sometimes. Just a good 30 seconds, right? That's all you need sometimes. After that 30 seconds, if this is your situation, if today's lessons has helped you, I would definitely, before I get into your situation, please help me hit like, share, subscribe, turn up your notifications on this video. Share this video with someone who needs it, okay? And I'll see you tomorrow, hopefully, inshallah, by His grace, okay? And if this is your situation, go to getmymarriageback.com/discovery. Hopefully, you've been enlightened, educated. We'll see you on the next one. Take care. God bless. Peace. Let's see here. Biba K, I see you. Nice to catch you. I'll see you guys later. Bye.
Are you fighting to save a marriage or a relationship, or simply avoiding to end up in a broken or toxic one?
We've been there, and you're in the right place. You see, inside this book, right, you will find and you will discover the secret to save a broken marriage, and you will learn how to build and attract the marriage of your dream.